Sophia Williams was born into a life of privilege. Her family's mansion in New Jersey looked more like a palace than a home, with marble floors, glittering chandeliers, and gardens so perfectly trimmed that every flower seemed to bloom on command. Her father was a powerful businessman, the kind who shook hands with senators and flew across oceans to sign contracts. Her mother was an elegant woman known for her charity galas and artistic background. From the outside, Sophia's world was a fairy tale: expensive cars, private schools, summers in Europe. Yet deep inside her heart, she often felt an emptiness that no luxury could fill. The laughter in her house often sounded hollow, replaced by business calls and social appearances. On the other side of the city, Aiden Parker's world was painted in struggle. His home was a small, worn-down apartment with leaky ceilings and thin walls that could barely keep out the cold. His father worked long hours as a construction laborer, and his mother folded clothes at a local laundry shop. Money was always short, bills piled up on the table, and sometimes dinner was nothing more than bread and soup. But despite poverty's grip, Aiden had something rare: a quiet strength and an inner light. He was brilliant in his studies, graceful in his manners, and carried himself with a dignity that seemed out of place in his modest surroundings. His charm wasn't in fine clothes or wealth, but in the way his eyes held honesty, and his smile carried warmth. Their paths might never have crossed, had it not been for fate. They met for the first time at a university event, Sophia standing confidently on stage, delivering a speech about art and society, her voice echoing through the auditorium. Aiden, sitting in the last row in a worn-out shirt, listened with every fiber of his being. To him, she was untouchable, a shining star in a galaxy he could never reach. But when their eyes met, something shifted. Sophia noticed the way he looked at her, not with envy, not with admiration for her wealth, but with a strange kind of recognition, as though he understood her loneliness beneath the sparkle. After the event, Aiden found himself walking toward her almost without thinking. His hands were nervous, his heart racing, but his voice was steady. "Aiden, when you spoke out there, it didn't feel like a speech. It felt like every word was meant for me." Sophia turned, slightly startled, then smiled, a genuine smile that she rarely gave in the polished circles of her world. "Sophia, most people hear the words. You heard the silence behind them." From that moment, something invisible tied them together. Sophia, the heiress with everything, was drawn to the boy who had nothing yet seemed to possess the world's greatest treasure: character. Aiden, who had grown up watching life's hardships, felt seen for the first time by someone who lived in golden cages yet carried hidden sorrow. As days turned into weeks, their connection deepened. They met secretly on campus lawns, exchanged stories under the old oak tree near the library, and walked together long after the city had fallen asleep. Sophia confessed how trapped she felt in a world where love was measured in diamonds. Aiden shared his dreams of becoming an architect, of building not just structures but a life where he and the one he loved could belong. But as their bond grew, the weight of their family's expectations began to cast shadows. Sophia's parents would never allow their daughter, born into wealth and reputation, to be with someone who couldn't even afford a proper suit. Aiden's family warned him not to dream too high, that people like them could never cross into a life of riches without being broken. Yet neither of them listened. In their hearts, love had already spoken louder than fear. One evening, as they sat by the river watching the reflection of city lights on the water, Sophia reached for Aiden's hand.
"Sophia, promise me one thing, Aiden."
"Even if the world stands against us, you won't let me go."
"Aiden, I promise you, Sophia."
"No matter what we lose, no matter how hard the road becomes, we will walk it together." And so began a love story that dared to challenge the boundaries of wealth and poverty, pride and sacrifice. A story that would face storms, betrayals, and endless tests, but also shine with promises whispered under the stars. The first whispers of their love spread quickly, as secrets rarely stay hidden for long in the polished halls of high society. Sophia's parents were the first to notice the change. She no longer sparkled at the grand parties they hosted, no longer seemed excited about meeting the sons of senators or young businessmen carefully chosen as her future. Instead, her eyes wandered toward the simplest things: a walk in the park, a book borrowed from the library, the thought of a boy whose world was so far from theirs. When her father confronted her, his voice thundered across the dining room table. "Mr. Williams, Sophia, I did not raise you to throw away everything for a boy who has nothing. Do you understand what people will say? What our name means in this city?" Sophia looked down at her plate, her hands trembling, but when she finally raised her eyes, they carried a quiet fire. Sophia, maybe our name means everything to the world, Father. But to me, it means nothing if I can't choose who I love. Aiden's side of the story was no easier. His parents loved him dearly, but they carried fear in their eyes. One evening, his mother sat beside him in their tiny living room, holding his hand with calloused fingers. "Mrs. Parker, Aiden, she belongs to another world. They will never let her suffer the way we suffer. Don't break your heart chasing a dream that will destroy you." Aiden's jaw tightened, and he looked at his mother with a mix of defiance and tenderness. "Aiden, I know it's impossible, Mom. But when I'm with her, the hunger, the cold, the debts, none of it matters. She sees me for who I am. Isn't that what love is supposed to be?" Despite the storms gathering around them, Sophia and Aiden clung to each other with desperate strength. They would meet after her classes in quiet cafes far from her family's circles, where no one recognized her diamond-studded last name. She would sip cheap coffee with him, laughing at the bitter taste, while he teased her about not knowing how to fold a paper napkin without looking royal. In those stolen hours, they built a universe of their own, one that was fragile, yet more real than anything either of them had known. But reality never stayed away for long. Invitations arrived for Sophia, urging her to attend galas and dinners where young men in tailored suits waited to impress her. Meanwhile, Aiden worked double shifts at a bookstore and tutored younger students just to keep his tuition paid. When Sophia walked into his cramped apartment for the first time, she froze at the sight of peeling wallpaper and a single bed covered with old sheets. Yet instead of pity, her eyes softened with admiration.
Sophia, you built this life with your own hand, Aiden.
That's worth more than all the gold in my house.
Aiden, half smiling, gold doesn't keep you warm at night. Dream do.
The more the world tried to pull them apart, the more fiercely they fought to stay together. One night, under a sky sprinkled with stars, Aiden brought Sophia to the construction site where he sometimes worked. He pointed to a half-finished building, its skeleton rising in the moonlight.
Aiden, one day, you'll design something like this. Not for money, not for fame.
For us.
A place where no one can tell us we don't belong.
Sophia's hand slipped into his, her eyes glistening with tears. "Sophia, and I'll sing in that home of ours until the walls themselves know our story." But shadows grew longer. Sophia's father hired private investigators to track her movements. Aiden received anonymous threats from men in expensive suits who warned him to stay in his place. Each confrontation left scars, yet each time they met afterward, their love burned brighter. They whispered promises not in safety, but in danger, because they knew what they were risking. One rainy evening, after another fierce argument with her parents, Sophia ran to Aiden, her dress soaked, her mascara streaked by tears. She collapsed into his arms, trembling. "Sophia, they'll never let us be together. They say I'll ruin everything, our name, our future, their pride." Aiden held her tight, his voice steady though his heart ached.
Aiden, then let's ruin it all, Sophia.
"Because I'd rather have nothing with you, than have the world without you." In that moment, beneath the storm, they sealed their fate. Whatever trials lay ahead, rejection, poverty, loneliness, they chose each other. And though their families built walls of steel, Sophia and Aiden found strength in a single truth: that love, when it is real, does not ask for permission. The night Sophia packed her bags was the night her world shattered and rebuilt itself all at once. In her golden bedroom, lined with velvet curtains and polished chandeliers, she stood before her mirror with trembling hands. She wasn't just leaving behind her gowns and glittering jewels, she was leaving behind her family's empire, their name, and the security of a life most could only dream of. For the first time in her life, she was choosing uncertainty. When her mother found her at the door with a single suitcase, her voice broke with both fury and fear.
"Mrs. Williams, Sophia, don't you understand what you're doing?
You're throwing away everything for him.
For a boy who can give you nothing."
Sophia's voice shook, but her eyes blazed with conviction.
"Sophia, no, mother.
I'm choosing love. I'm choosing someone who sees me, not the money, not the name. For the first time, I'm free." That night, Sophia left the mansion and never looked back. Aiden was waiting for her in the rain-soaked streets, a backpack slung over his shoulder. He didn't have much to offer, just a small apartment with creaking floors and dreams bigger than the sky, but when he saw her walking toward him, drenched yet radiant with determination, he felt like the richest man alive. He ran to her, pulling her into his arms. "Aiden, are you sure about this, Sophia? Once you step into my world, there's no turning back." "Sophia, I don't need to turn back. My home is wherever you are." Their first days together were anything but easy. Sophia traded silk sheets for thin blankets, candlelit dinners for leftover takeout. The heater in Aiden's apartment broke often, and winters wrapped them in cold. Yet in that poverty, they found a richness no mansion could ever hold. They cooked simple meals together, laughing when the rice burned. They shared a single umbrella on stormy mornings, running through puddles like children. At night, Sophia would rest her head on Aiden's chest, listening to his heartbeat as though it was the most precious sound in the universe. But struggles pressed harder with each passing month. Bills piled up faster than Aiden could pay them. He juggled tutoring, construction shifts, and late-night design work for small clients, while Sophia took part-time jobs, waiting tables, singing at small cafes where no one knew she was once the daughter of one of New Jersey's wealthiest families. Sometimes they fought, their voices echoing in the tiny apartment when stress and exhaustion broke through their patience. One evening, after a long day, Sophia collapsed on the couch, tears spilling down her face. "Sophia, maybe they were right, Aiden. Maybe I wasn't meant for this life. I don't know how much longer I can fight." Aiden knelt before her, taking her trembling hands into his. His voice was steady, yet his own eyes were wet. "Aiden, listen to me, Sophia. They measure life in money and names. But we measure it in love. We're not poor, not really. Because every day, I wake up and I still have you. That's more than enough." His words became her anchor. No matter how heavy the storms grew, Sophia found strength in the simple truth of their bond. She had chosen this path, and though it was filled with hardship, it was also filled with meaning. Months turned into years, and slowly, painfully, Aiden's hard work began to show results. His designs caught the attention of a small firm, and he was offered a chance to work on real projects. The pay was modest, but it was a step toward his dream. Sophia's voice, too, began to rise above the cafes. A local producer noticed her during an open mic night, struck not just by her talent but by the raw emotion in her singing. She wasn't just performing songs, she was pouring her life into them. And yet, despite the glimmers of hope, the divide between them and their families remained. Neither side reached out, neither side forgave. But Sophia and Aiden held each other through every rejection, every tear, every broken night. One evening, as the city lights shimmered outside their window, Sophia whispered softly into the silence. "Sophia, Aiden promised me, no matter what happens, no matter how far we go or how hard it gets, we'll never let go of this." Aiden tightened his arms around her, his voice a vow etched into eternity.
Aiden, I promise, Sophia.
"Even if the world turns its back on us, I'll never turn away.
We are forever."
And in that small, struggling apartment, with nothing but love to their names, they began to carve out a forever that no empire could buy. Years passed, and the world slowly began to take notice of Aiden and Sophia. The boy who once had nothing now carried himself with the quiet authority of a man building a future. His talent as an architect blossomed when the small firm he worked for entrusted him with a daring project, a modern library for the city. His designs, elegant yet humble, spoke not of wealth but of accessibility, of community. It was a building for people like his parents, for the boy he once was, for those who needed a place to dream. When the project was completed, the city's newspapers carried his name for the first time. Sophia, too, was finding her voice beyond the small cafes. The producer who had discovered her invited her to record in a modest studio. At first, she was terrified. She still remembered her parents' disapproval, the scorn in their eyes when they warned she would ruin her life. But when she sang, every note carried her journey, the loneliness of a mansion filled with silence, the warmth of Aiden's arms in a freezing apartment, the promise of love that refused to die. Her songs were raw, real, and unforgettable. Soon, invitations came for her to perform on larger stages, and the name Sophia Williams began to rise again, not as an heiress, but as an artist. But success is never simple.
With recognition comes the return of shadow.
Sophia's family began appearing in the background of her career, offering deals, contracts, and reconciliation, but only if she abandoned Aiden. Her father met her backstage one evening, his suit pressed, his voice cold yet persuasive.
Monsieur Williams, Sophia, Juve prouvant your point.
You've suffered enough in poverty. Come home.
He can give you everything again.
Wealth. Power. A career without limits. All you have to do is let him go. Sophia's hands clenched into fists. She looked him in the eye, her voice steady with defiance.
Sophia, you still don't understand.
Without him, I am nothing. I'd rather sing to empty streets with Aiden by my side than fill stadiums with a broken heart. Aiden, too, faced his trials. As his career grew, he was invited to meetings with wealthy investors and powerful men. They praised his talent but raised eyebrows at the life he led. More than once, he was told to upgrade his lifestyle, to find a partner who matched his rising status. One evening, after a long meeting, a colleague remarked carelessly, "Colleague, you're brilliant, Parker. But let's be honest, a man like you doesn't belong with a woman who waits tables. Trade up. That's how the world works." Aiden's eyes burned with anger. He stood tall, his voice sharp and unwavering.
Aiden, he don't trade love for comfort.
The world can keep its rules, I make my own. Still, the pressure weighed heavily on them. Success demanded time, and time pulled them apart. Aiden worked long hours on designs, often coming home past midnight. Sophia traveled for performances, sometimes gone for weeks. Their apartment, once alive with laughter, often fell silent. They argued more about missed dinners, forgotten promises, and the exhaustion of always fighting to prove themselves. One night, the tension exploded. Sophia returned from a concert, tired and frustrated, only to find Aiden still at his desk, sketches scattered across the table. "Sophia, do you even see me anymore, Aiden? Or do you only see these buildings you dream about?" Aiden, snapping, then instantly regretting it, "And do you see me, Sophia? Or just the stages you keep running to?" The silence afterward was suffocating. For a moment, both feared that perhaps love wasn't enough. But then, in the quiet, Aiden walked toward her, his voice breaking.
Aiden, I'm sorry.
"I'm just afraid. Afraid that in chasing our dreams, we'll lose each other." Sophia's tears fell as she cupped his face in her hands. "Sophia, we won't. Because our dreams mean nothing if we don't share them. I don't want the world, Aiden. I just want us." They held each other that night, clinging to the vow that had carried them from the start. No matter how hard the road, they would walk it together. And so, hand in hand, they pushed forward, two souls bound not by wealth or status, but by promises made in the shadows, promises that even success could not break. The year their dreams began to take shape was also the year fate decided to test the very foundation of their love. Sophia's music soared to new heights, her voice echoing through concert halls packed with strangers who adored her. Aiden's name was whispered in circles of architecture, praised for his daring vision and human heart. From the outside, they looked like the perfect couple, beauty, love, and rising success. But inside, the walls of their little apartment shook with storms no one else could see. It began with distance. Sophia was invited on a 6-month international tour. Aiden encouraged her, smiling as he packed her suitcase, though his chest ached with fear.
Aiden, go. Shine for the world, Sophia. Don't ever hold back for me. Sophia, tire Aiden, what if the world pull me so far away, he can't come back.
Aiden, pulling her close, then I'll build a bridge high enough to reach you. For weeks, they lived on phone calls, video screens, and whispered goodnights across time zones. But love stretched thin is fragile. Rumors began to circulate in tabloids. A wealthy producer seemed too close to Sophia, a glamorous architect admiring Aiden at a gala. Neither gave the rumors truth, but the whispers planted doubt. One night, during a rare call, the distance snapped.
Sophia, do you still believe in us, Aiden?
Or are we just holding on to something that's breaking? Aiden, his voice sharp, weary from endless work, I've given everything, Sophia. While you're out there living your dream, I'm here fighting to keep us alive.
Don't you dare question my love.
The call ended in silence, and for the first time, neither said, I love you. Then came the real blow. Aiden's company collapsed under the weight of betrayal from partners he had trusted. Overnight, he lost his savings, his projects, his security. The boy who had once risen from nothing found himself standing again on the edge of poverty. His pride kept him from calling Sophia, from telling her the truth. He couldn't bear to confess that while she stood on glittering stages, he was back to sleeping hungry some nights, sketching on scraps of paper to stay alive. But Sophia discovered the truth when she cut her tour short and returned home unannounced. She opened the door to find the man she loved, not in their warm apartment, but sitting alone in the dark, papers scattered, eyes hollow with exhaustion. Sophia, running to him, voice breaking, "Why didn't you tell me? Why would you carry this pain alone?"
Aiden, choking back tears, because he couldn't let you see me fall again. He promised you more, Sophia.
Not this. Not failure. Sophia cupped his face, forcing him to look at her.
Sophia, you promised me love, Aiden.
Not riches. Not perfection. Just love.
Det is Olivier ever wanted.
In that broken night, with nothing but each other, they made a vow stronger than any before. They swore that no matter how cruel the world became, they would not let pride, fear, or distance tear them apart again. But fate wasn't done yet. Just as they began to rebuild, Sophia received devastating news. Her mother had fallen gravely ill. And though her father still despised Aiden, Sophia could not ignore the pull of family. Torn between the man she loved and the woman who had raised her, Sophia faced a choice that could reshape their lives forever. And Aiden, standing at the edge of ruin, had to decide whether his love was strong enough to endure a world that seemed determined to break them apart. Sophia rushed through the airport, her heart pounding with fear and urgency. Her mother's illness had worsened unexpectedly, and the doctors were grim. For a moment, the weight of her entire life, the luxury she had left behind, the love she fought for, the struggles she had endured with Aiden, threatened to crush her. But when she thought of him, waiting, the anchor of her life, she knew she had to move forward without hesitation. Aiden met her at the hospital entrance, his hands gripping hers with quiet intensity. His eyes, tired and haunted from months of rebuilding his life, shone with unyielding devotion.
Aiden, Amir, Sophia. What ver comes, we face it together. Sophia, I can't do this alone, Aiden.
Not my mother, not the fear, not this pain. Aiden, pulling her close, then don't.
Lean on me.
Always. Days in the hospital became their new battleground. Between treatments and medical consultations, they whispered dreams of a future they weren't sure they would reach. Sophia's mother, once proud and stern, slowly realized the depth of Aiden's character, his patience, his courage, and the unwavering way he loved her daughter. In quiet moments, she pulled Sophia aside. "Mrs. Williams," softly, with tears in her eyes, "you were right about him, Sophia. He is everything I feared, and everything I should have welcomed." Sophia held her mother's hand tightly, whispering gratitude. Yet she never wavered in looking at Aiden, the man who had carried her heart through storms she could never face alone. Meanwhile, Aiden's struggles escalated. His financial setbacks threatened the apartment, the small projects he had managed to save, and even his reputation. Sleepless nights and endless worry gnawed at him. One evening, exhausted, he sat sketching by candlelight, thinking of the life they dreamed of. Sophia appeared behind him, her hair wet from rain, her eyes fierce.
Sophia, Aiden, look at me.
"You're not alone in this fight. We are in it together. Always."
Nothing can touch us when we fight a one.
Aiden swallowed hard, his voice hoarse. "Aiden, I've tried to be strong for you, Sophia, but sometimes I'm afraid I'll fail you." Sophia knelt beside him, her hand brushing his cheek. "Sophia, fail me? You've already given me everything. Love doesn't fail. We do it together, or not at all." Weeks turned into months, and slowly, the storm began to lift. Aiden's small firm survived, gaining recognition through his resilient work. Sophia's mother recovered, and the family began to reconcile with the truth. Love cannot be measured by wealth, status, or approval, only by the heart. One evening, as the sun set over the city skyline, Aiden and Sophia stood on the rooftop of their tiny apartment building, the wind whipping through their hair. All around them, life continued, the streets bustling, the city alive, indifferent to their struggles, yet in that moment, nothing else mattered. "Sophia, we've walked through fire, Aiden. Every scar, every sleepless night, it was worth it." Aiden, holding her close, "Every storm made us stronger. Every tear taught us what it means to love without compromise." "Sophia, do you remember the first promise we made?" Aiden, "Every word. And I would make it 1,000 times again." They kissed as the city glowed beneath them, a promise renewed, love against the world, unbroken, unshakable, eternal. And in that quiet rooftop embrace, they realized something profound. The world might test them endlessly, but together they could conquer anything, because love, when true, is stronger than every obstacle life can throw. Years had passed since the storms of their youth, the trials of poverty, the judgment of families, and the uncertain nights of doubt. Aiden and Sophia had emerged stronger, their love tempered like steel forged in fire. The small apartment where they had once struggled had been replaced by a modest home they built together, not grand, but full of laughter, music, and memories stitched into every corner. Every wall, every window, every faded carpet told the story of their fight, their passion, and their unwavering promise to each other. Aiden's architectural career had flourished. His designs now graced city skylines, each building a testament to creativity, perseverance, and heart. Yet no matter how tall the towers he built, he returned each night to Sophia's side, knowing that the real foundation of his life was not stone or steel, but the woman who had never let go of his hand. Sophia's music had blossomed into international acclaim, but even with sold-out concerts and awards, she remained grounded, her art a reflection of the love and life they shared, humble, raw, and profoundly beautiful. One evening, under a sky painted with hues of amber and violet, Sophia and Aiden sat together on a park bench, the same park where they had first walked hand in hand as young dreamers. Children played nearby, their laughter echoing, and the city hummed softly around them. Sophia rested her head on Aiden's shoulder. "Sophia, do you remember that first promise we made under the stars?" Aiden, smiling softly, "How could I forget? I promised you everything I had, and you promised to fight by my side." Sophia, and here we are. We've built a life from nothing. Every struggle, every tear, every sleepless night, it brought us here. Aiden took her hands in his, eyes reflecting the golden sunset. "Aiden, not just here, Sophia. We've built forever. And it's ours to fill with love, laughter, and all the dreams we never gave up on." Sophia, forever. That's what I always wanted. Not wealth, not status, just us. You and me, no matter what. Aiden, whispering no matter what. They laughed softly as a gentle breeze carried the scent of flowers from nearby gardens. For the first time in decades, the weight of the world seemed distant. Their families had reconciled, the bitterness of the past softened by understanding. Sophia's parents had come to recognize the strength of Aiden's character, and his parents had witnessed the unwavering devotion Sophia brought to their son's life. The barriers of wealth, status, and societal expectation had crumbled, leaving only love, pure and unshakable. Later that evening, in the quiet of their home, Sophia sang softly for Aiden, a song she had written for their life together. The lyrics told their story, the struggles, the triumphs, the stolen nights, and the endless promises whispered beneath stars. Aiden held her close, letting the music wrap around them like a warm embrace. "Aiden, I never thought life could be this full. Not because of what we have, but because of what we shared, and what we kept fighting for. Sophia, it was always worth it. Every storm, every tear, it led us to this moment." And as the night deepened, they looked out the window at the skyline they had once dreamed of touching. In the soft glow of the city lights, they held hands, hearts beating in perfect harmony. The journey that had begun in poverty and privilege, in secrecy and rebellion, had led them to a love beyond measure. A love that endured, that grew, that became their world. Finally, Aiden pressed his lips to Sophia's forehead. "Aiden, forever, Sophia. Just you and me always." Sophia, smiling, eyes shining forever. And in that embrace, the story of two souls, from two very different worlds, reached its perfect, timeless conclusion. They had faced everything: wealth, poverty, family, society, distance, and doubt. And in the end, love had conquered all. Aiden and Sophia were no longer just two people in a city of millions. They were a testament to the power of choice, resilience, and the promise that true love, once found, can never be broken. Their life continued, filled with quiet mornings, shared laughter, music, sketches, and endless conversations. And though the years would bring more challenges, more storms, they had already learned the ultimate truth: together, they could withstand anything. Together, they were home.